And we're back. My guest today is Karoleen Fober, who has been telling us some amazing stories about miracle recoveries. And, as you said before the break, it was like the hospital people couldn't believe, and then when they got to that point of frustration, they just what blew up, I guess.
Yeah, it's amazing to me how people don't include this in their life as a total possibility when everything else you can't explain it. And that's a great part of the definition. It's like, wow.
Just so did that help you get on your path of helping people with your own consultations and things like that?
Yes, I had actually had an auditory almost a request. I won't say demand, but I had an auditory healing request probably almost 15 years earlier, and I was shocked. And the words were heal Michael, heal this person that I knew. He had just been diagnosed with cancer.
Ah,
And that took me back, but I was willing. See, I was willing. So if you're called and you're willing, you will be helped. I didn't know what to do. I would send him divine healing. Um, and then he was given 10 years and to live. And I was just perplexed. I didn't know what to do, but I told God, I said, well, if you want me to do this, which I will help with, but you're going to have to help me because I don't know what to do besides sending energetic healing. So about 2 years later, I was getting a little nervous because, I knew this friend. I talked to him and he hadn't gotten any worse, but he hadn't gotten any better. And about 2 weeks later, I had had a dream and I woke up and the dream had told me to call him, set up an appointment, and talk with him. And of course, I went, well, what am I going to do? What am I going to say? And
mhm.
the sense of it was, you will be guided. And I'd had enough of these things that happened that I just said, okay, I trusted. And I get into the appointment and he starts talking about that his dad had died of the same thing and he was probably going to die. And right away, I got that signal. It got my attention and I said, that's what I was looking for. And I said, you are not supposed to ever say that. And he was somebody that was open to a little guidance. I don't think he believed in God, but he was open to what I had to say. Let's just say that. And I just shared with him that everything is energy. And I said, just because your dad died of this does not have anything to do with you. And he lived and he accepted that. I said, will you take that out of your thought process? And he said, yes, he was there open. And he just died within the last 2 years, but he was given 10. He had about six left, and he lived another, I believe it was 24 years from that point.
Well, I'm sure everybody's wondering, you were directed by an angel, a soul voice, a
Yeah.
communication, and you went to
Yeah.
see Michael. So, what did Michael have to get that extra special help from above to have you as his angel come over and sort of on the job training
Yeah.
help him?
Well,
What happened?
this is how I explain things. Obviously, we all have a circle of friends, people that we know through lots of different ways, work, fun activities. And so we were friends. And I was a former financial advisor, and he was a former client of mine. So we knew each other and trusted each other. So we had that. The way I explain this is I believe that we will be used for good in the best way. So I feel like I was tapped to help him for several reasons. I knew him, he trusted me. I was open. And so I believe that the matrix, whatever you want to call it, there's so much going on that they know what to do. And so in the spiritual world, they're going to connect with those that are willing. And sometimes if you aren't willing, you just get that strong sense, I need to call that person today. And so I always tell people, go with your first thoughts. Don't question some of these inklings you're getting. Most of the time, it's going to be a phone call, not too much required, but just to maybe be there for somebody. You don't know whose life you might be saving or help,
Like I,
just, helping.
yeah, I think if we have two schools of thoughts, one who people are aware, like yourself, incidences come along and they give you evidence that there's something to this, the mysterious. You follow along, because maybe you're curious or maybe it makes sense or something else. And then these events happen that show that there is something in the mysterious, in the invisible, made visible, the great beyond. But
Yes.
beyond that, I see in your book you've had an angel. When you went to see your friend Michael, I'm sure he was an angel. I mean, you showed up. There you are, very attractive, a pleasant person, approachable, whatever. And he's in a very difficult bind, but
Yes.
somehow he's got some brownie points from the spiritual world, and they sent you over to help him. So I wonder what his friends around him when they saw that he was miraculously helped or divinely intervention came to him. I wonder what they thought. I wonder if that changed their lives.
And that's the beautiful idea about all this is that it's not going to just affect one person. You never know who's going to hear these stories. Um, and I believe everybody has these stories. The other thing I guess I wanted to just add is that we all have the capability to expand our spiritual awareness and connection. Our body is like a tuning fork. You know, Basically all of the wells uh, dug for all these farmhouses. Think about the West in the United States. I mean, you have a house, a homestead. Well, you need water. They use tuning forks to find where the best places were to dig. So we're connected in this beautiful divine energy system. And so imagine we're the tuning fork and we're going to get a message. Most people feel it in their body somewhere. I get message, I feel it certain ways. I have people ask me, well, how do you know? I go, I feel like it's like you've got your phone, right? And it's like almost a silent beep, silent message, but it gets your attention. And if you really think about it, whether you do it for a living like me and maybe you, um, everybody gets these inklings. And sometimes they don't know where they come from. They don't know why. I always say, it's okay. I don't always know everything. I don't have all the answers, but I am interested in helping people. So I'm on the lookout for these messages. I'm paying attention. So instead of putting them on the back burner like most of us did between the ages of 6 to 8, it's front and center. I'm looking for them.
Well, you're a former financial advisor. I'm not sure if you're still doing that, but uh,
No.
and now you made the transition from the analytical world into the spiritual, mystical aspects. And I think if you can justify both, analytically looking at the factual, logical things, and then coming to the conclusion, like, well, how did I know that? And I had that dream, and it came true. And you've
Yeah.
had these spiritual miracle events that have happened as well. I mean, that's when you get it, right? You move from
Yes.
possibly imagination, suggestion over to, well, wait a minute, I heard a
Hmm.
voice. My friend got
Exactly.
better. Go
Yes.
ahead.
And that's what I love what you have brought up is that one, everyone is having these things. They say, "Oh yeah, I had a dream. My grandma came through." Was there a message? Well, usually there is. Even if it's something about how they feel, maybe they feel better. They felt, oh, I got to connect with my grandma again. You're going to feel better if you liked your grandma, right? So they're having these experiences. And that's why I wrote the book. I started out the book in a very pivotal point, moment in my life. And then I take the reader with me and I go back. I go back to my, childhood and I start looking myself. Oh, yeah, that happened and that happened. So I want the reader to kind of wake up through my stories and remember their stories and start putting it together that, yes, you are a spiritual being as well, fully connected. You have that beautiful lifeline to the spiritual realm that's only there to help you, guide you, and love you.
Well, I can't say that I would disagree with anything. That's exactly on the beam, so to speak. In this day and age when everybody's so going through this chaotic world, love, compassion, just simply being at peace. Those are qualities that I'd like to see more of in the world. From your perspective, why do you think the world is going through this time of extremes or chaos?
Well, I think it's quite simple. I think that it's a mistake to not include the spiritual world. If you leave out that space and energy of miracles and the reality of miracles and say, "Oh, that was a fluke. Oh, that was nothing." To me, that's like, I mean, don't slap my face. Nothing, a miracle is nothing. I don't think so. So I think we have to wake up a little bit for those that maybe aren't on this spectrum and say, what if it was? Open the door for the possibilities and open your mind and memory bank. I had a woman who she was almost angry with me. She was nothing great miraculous has ever happened to me. And I of course I tried not to laugh, but I was laughing because I have never met anyone that can't tell me something happened. So I just stayed with her and I said, I don't buy it. But maybe something in your childhood. And I just waited. And she said, "Oh my goodness." I said, "What?" She said, "When I was 8 or 9, my mom gave me a letter to mail. She walked down the street, mailed the letter. On her way back, a man with a white van stopped and opened the door and said, 'Hey, I want you to come over here. I have something to show you.'" There was no one around, but she heard a voice and it said, "You
Run.
are you are in danger.
Yes.
Run." Which she did. She ran home, made it home safe and sound, and I was like, "Get out of town." I said, "Do you realize you had a potentially life-saving auditory divine message given to you? It potentially saved your life." And she was just like shocked because she'd totally forgotten it. This is why I wrote the book, is to wake us all up again and remember, hey, you are being, pay attention because miracles are happening if you'll only open your eyes and
Well,
ears.
I would agree with that. The little girl was
Yeah.
scared and, of course, didn't make the connection until after all these years, until you brought it to her and said, "Hey, that was an angel talking to you." Like, I got it as soon as I'm sorry I jumped out there. I just say,
Yeah,
"Whoa,
no, that's fine.
you're,
Yes,
you're,
it was
you're in
so
trouble."
exciting. Well, that's why I just don't buy it when people tell me, and this is the other thing. I teach clients to have more of these experiences. And one of the things, some of the biggest blocks to getting messages is our own low energy. And what I mean by low energy, as many of you listeners probably know and understand by now, is that negativity is low. So um, if you're asleep to that or focused on something that's negative, and they say depression is really difficult for messages to get through. It's such a heavy, low energy. So depression, any type of negative energy, anger, revenge. Oh, I'll get that guy. I mean, stay out of all the mud puddles is what I tell people to do. It's a simple piece of advice, but it works. So I listen to people, but I don't jump into their mud puddle. Even if they have an illness, I'm listening to get information. But if I'm going to do an energetic healing, I'm not going to go there. I'm going to go to the highest energy possible and channel that in there. And so that's what I tell people. It's simple, but it is profound. And I believe you asked what's going on right now. I think many people are stuck in negative energy. I call it their mud puddles. And I will not get in a mud puddle with anyone. I will throw them a rope and help pull them out a little bit. But they must, we're given free will. So this, you're creating your own world. So stay away from the negativity. I'm a normal human being. I can get ticked off at something. I can get frustrated, but I don't waste too much time. And with my clients, guess what I do? I set a timer. I said, oh, okay, we have 30 minutes, we have 45 minutes. I'll just set the timer, say anything you want for 2 minutes, and I don't care what you say. And they start laughing. They go, well, that's ridiculous. I go, exactly. So we have to be better. We have to be better at being in charge of our energy. It's not what's going on over here, what's going on here. And let's face it, if you're in all these other mud puddles going on, you're not part of the solution. You're part of the problem. So I tell people, you have a choice. Are you want the problem or do you want the solution?
Yes. Well, on that note, we're going to encourage everybody not to jump in mud puddles. Let's see the cover of that book again.
Opening to divine intervention.
And it's Karoleen Fober,
Fober.
Fober.com. Okay,
Yes.
we'll be right back after this.